Las Vegas. The crowd is roaring, cameras flashing from every direction, and millions of people around the world are watching as the two fighters stand across from each other.
The greatest fighter of this generation. I told y'all back then.
Moved up 2 divisions to beat Canelo. He's accomplished more than Mayweather for sure.
Let's bet $1 million. Let's bet $1 million.
My dad used to tell my mom I was going to be a world champion.
He did good because he was around here beating up everybody in the neighborhood.
Inside the ring, one of them, the dangerous champion, feared throughout the sport, and in the opposite corner stands a man who didn't come from the traditional boxing capital like New York, Las Vegas, or Mexico City, but instead from Omaha, Nebraska, a place few people in the boxing world had ever expected to produce one of the most complete fighters of this generation. Yet this moment was never about luck, because behind it were years of discipline, pain, loss, and a fighter who learned early in their life that survival sometimes means fighting. His name is Terence Crawford, and this is the story of how a kid from the toughest streets in Omaha grew into one of boxing's most feared champions.
I think he's the most instinctual fighter I've ever seen. I'll say
July 29, 2023 arrived with an enormous anticipation at the arena in Las Vegas, buzzed with an energy, because standing across from Crawford was Errol Spence Jr., an undefeated champion known for his strength, aggression, and relentless pressure, and many analysts believe this would be the toughest test of Crawford in his entire career. Two undefeated champions were about to collide for the unified crown, and the boxing world had debated the same question for years: who is truly the best welterweight on the planet? But to fully understand what happened that night inside the ring, you first have to understand where Terence Crawford came from, because fighters like him are not created overnight. They are forged through years of struggle that most people never see. Crawford grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, a city rarely mentioned in boxing conversation, but one that shaped every part of who he became. Life there wasn't easy, especially in the neighborhood of North Omaha, where violence was common and trouble could appear around almost any corner. And as a young kid, Crawford found himself constantly fighting, sometimes in school, sometimes on the street. Yet, unlikely many others in his environment, he discovered a place where all the energy could be transformed into something purposeful: the boxing gym. From the moment he first stepped inside, trainers noticed something different about him. It wasn't only his speed or power, but the discipline behind his work ethic. Crawford would remain in the gym long after everyone else had left, shadow boxing in empty corners, practicing footwork again and again, studying fighters and perfecting movements that most young boxers ignored. His mother, Debbie Crawford, saw the change boxing brought into his life, understanding that the streets could take everything away, but the gym gave her son structure, direction, and chance at something bigger, and Crawford embraced that path completely. While other kids spent their night outside, he was running miles through the neighborhood, and while others were partying, he was training, slowly building the fighter the world would eventually come to know. During his amateur years of Crawford didn't simply fight, he studied the sport like a strategist, analyzing every movement on chessboard. With more than 70 amateur fights against elite opponents in national tournaments, he quietly built a reputation among those inside boxing gyms who recognized something special developing. He wasn't the loudest prospect and he didn't receive the same hypes as other young fighters, but those who watched him closely understood what made him different. Crawford could switch stance effortlessly, moving from orthodox to southpaw without losing rhythm, and his timing inside the ring felt almost frightening. Opponents would launch combination expecting chaos, yet Crawford would calmly slip their punches, counter with perfect precision. By the time he turned professional in 2008, one thing had already become clear to those paying attention. This wasn't just another promising prospect. This was a fighter who understood boxing on a deeper level. The longer the fight continued, the stronger he became. He would spend the early round studying habits, observing reaction, quietly downloading information, and then once he understood his opponent's rhythm, he began dismantling them piece by piece. Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr., two undefeated champions whose rivalry had fueled endless debate across the sports.
Let's bet $1 million. Let's bet $1 million.
When they fought, as he always did, pressing with heavy body attacks and relentless pressure. Yet Crawford remained calm and focused, reading every movement. Then champion. After that performance, conversation around boxing shifted dramatically, because if Crawford could dismantle a fighter as elite as Spence, many began wondering who in the world could stop him. And the question naturally led into possible of an extraordinary super fight, Terence Crawford against Canelo Álvarez. Canelo Álvarez has spent years of dominating higher weight classes, naturally bigger and stronger, while Terence Crawford is stepping into unfamiliar territory. Yet when the bell rings, Crawford looks calm, focused, and completely unintimidated. The opening round is cautious. Canelo moves forward with clear plan, cut the ring and attack the body. Crawford responds by constantly switching stance and circling, forcing Canelo to adjust, shift angles. When Canelo fires a left hook to the body, Crawford slips away and snaps back with a sharp counter, showing he is not just surviving, he is already solving the puzzles. By round 4, Canelo increases the pressure, landing heavy body shots that echo through the arena. Crawford feels them, but instead of panicking, he studies rhythm. Midway through the fight, his timing began to pay off. Jab, step back, counter as Canelo closed the distance. For the first time, Canelo hesitates as Crawford's speed and angles disrupts his pressure. Round 8 becomes the turning point. Canelo charges forward with a wide hook to trap on the ropes, but Crawford anticipates it and fire a sharp counter combination. Canelo stumbles slightly, not hurt, but surprised, and the crowd erupts as Crawford begins making him uncomfortable. In the championship round, the fight becomes a battle of will. Canelo presses forward with crushing body shots and uppercuts, while Crawford responds with precision, slip counter angles. The fight turns into a high-level chase match, where one mistake could change everything. By 12th round, both fighters are exhausted. Canelo launches one final combination, but Crawford avoids most of it and lands a last precise counter before the bell. In the 12 brutal rounds, the crowd roars as the judges prepare a nearly impossible decision. Regardless of the scorecard, one truth is clear: Crawford proved his chasing greatness. From the streets of Omaha to facing one of boxing's biggest stars, his story has always been about discipline, resilience, and the belief that no opponent is unbeatable.